One of the most, if not the essential aspects of proper psychological flourishing is self-esteem. It is the bedrock upon which our views of ourselves are constructed, denotes the value we ascribe to ourselves, and predicts, among others, academic achievements, satisfaction in relationships, and even our general happiness. The renowned humanistic psychologist Abraham Maslow incorporated self-esteem in his famous hierarchy of needs, which he tellingly placed just before the top of a person's psychological needs. For Maslow, self-esteem is the stepping stone towards self-actualization, the process of becoming, achieving, and fulfilling one's potential. Of course, this begs the question how one should cultivate self-esteem. In his magnum opus, The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem, published in 1994, which compiles decades of the fruits of his exploration into self-esteem, psychotherapist Nathaniel Branden proposed a route towards self-esteem via 6 pillars. All our choices determine the kind of person we are. We rarely remember, let alone contemplate, most of these choices. But deep within us, they're all processed, added up, and provides a sense of who we are, our self-esteem. Living consciously means to be far more cognizant of everything that influences our actions, values, and goals, and to behave according to what we see and know. On this matter, Bruce Lee, the philosopher, martial artist, in his essay, The Passionate State of Mind, remarked, "We can see through others only when we see through ourselves. Lack of self-awareness renders us transparent. A soul that knows itself is opaque." To become different from what we are, we must have some awareness of what we are. Yet it is remarkable that the very people who are most self-dissatisfied and crave most for a new identity have the least self-awareness. They have turned away from an unwanted self and hence never had a good look at it. The result is that those most dissatisfied can never dissimulate nor attain a real change of heart. They are transparent, and their unwanted qualities persist through all attempts at self-dramatization and self-transformation. Branden himself provides guidance on how to live more consciously. Living consciously entails a mind that is active rather than passive, an intelligence that takes joy in its own function, being in the moment, without losing the wider context, reaching out towards relevant facts rather than withdrawing from them, being concerned to distinguish amongst facts, interpretations, and emotions, noticing and confronting my impulses to avoid or deny painful or threatening realities. Living consciously also entails taking stock of where you are in relation to where you want to be. What are you doing to actualize it? Are you aware of what you are doing on a daily basis in relation to the person you want to be and the life you want to craft? As Branden put it, "I am not living consciously if my consciousness is used for everything but self-understanding." Change and growth starts with self-acceptance. If you are confronted with a mistake you've made, accept it is yours and that it is an opportunity to learn from it and do better in the future. Yet, too often we fear embracing ourselves entirely. As Carl Jung put it, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. To start practicing self-acceptance, Branden recommends, start to contemplate some difficult feeling or emotion, insecurity, pain, envy, rage, sorrow, fear. Think about what typically evokes it and try to isolate it. Breathe into the feeling. Focus on the feeling while picturing you are directing the flow of air to and from it. Imagine how it would feel not to resist this feeling, but to accept it fully. Explore that experience. It might be a very comfortable illusion to think that others may come and support you, but only leaves us passive and powerless. draining our vigor. This self-deception impedes us from taking charge and realizing life's possibilities and our potentialities. The epiphany presents itself when it dawns on us that it is down to ourselves to solve our problems, to make our lives right, and to set course. Branden notes, "To feel competent to live and worthy of happiness, I need to experience a sense of control over my existence. This requires that I be willing to take responsibility for my actions and the attainment of my goals. This means that I take responsibility for my life and well-being. Self-responsibility is essential to self-esteem, and it is also a reflection or manifestation of self-esteem. The relationship between self-esteem and its pillars is always reciprocal. Taking responsibility only ensues after the uncomfortable realization that I am responsible for my choices and actions. It is expressed through an active orientation to life, through a conscious appraisal of what I do and what I should do. Taking responsibility alone is not sufficient. We need to assert to fully embody our self-responsibility. Here again, living consciously forms the stepping stone to self-assertion by seeing, thinking, and being aware of both the world outside of us and inside of us, in such a way that we challenge superfluous conventions that hinder our growth. Branden writes it best, "Without appropriate self-assertiveness, we are spectators, not participants. Healthy self-esteem asks that we leap into the arena, that we be willing to get our hands dirty. Self-assertion entails the willingness to confront rather than evade the challenges of life and to strive for mastery. When we expand the boundaries of our ability to cope, we expand self-efficacy and self-respect. When we commit ourselves to new areas of learning, when we take on tasks that stretch us, we raise personal power. We thrust ourselves further into the universe. We assert our existence. When we are attempting to understand something and we hit a wall, it is an act of self-assertiveness to persevere. When we undertake to acquire new skills, absorb new knowledge, extend the reach of our mind across unfamiliar spaces, when we commit ourselves to moving to a higher level of competence, we are practicing self-assertiveness." Pointedly and succinctly, Bruce Lee also weighed in on the importance of taking action continuously to assert ourselves and grow our self-esteem consequently. Action is a high road to self-confidence and self-esteem. Where it is open, all energies flow towards it. It comes readily to most people and its rewards are tangible. The maintenance of self-esteem is a continuous task that taxes all of the individual's power and inner resources. We have to prove our worth and justify our existence anew each day. One should realize and live this realization with all their heart that their life belongs to them, not others, and should be lived on their own terms, not someone else's or their expectations. Branden urges us to explore our innermost drives, dreams and desires, and to take action that is required to not forsake this calling that is deeply embedded within us. The sad irony is that when people cease to honor or even attend to their deepest needs and wants, they sometimes become selfish, not in a noble but in the petty sense, grasping at trivia after they have surrendered their deeper yearnings, rarely even knowing what they have betrayed and given up. Purpose provides direction. To live without purpose is to live by fluke, bobbed about by external forces, with no clear foothold, because we have no guidance by which to judge what is or is not worth doing. Purpose also propels us into action, which is in itself a pathway to self-esteem. It is not the goals we achieve themselves, but the process of striving, of doing, that is foundational to self-esteem. As we grow older, we develop or learn through others the values and standards we abide by. At this point, personal integrity becomes a more significant concern to our well-being. Integrity is the integration of our values, standards, and belief systems into our behavior. Do we practice what we preach, especially when things get difficult? This is the hallmark of personal integrity. When our actions match the value system we ascribe to, we feel well and whole. Personal integrity fuels our self-esteem. Conversely, Branden writes, when we behave in ways that conflict with our judgment of what is appropriate, we lose faith in our own eyes. We respect ourselves less. If the policy becomes habitual, we trust ourselves less or cease to trust ourselves at all. When a breach of integrity wounds self-esteem, only the practice of integrity can heal it. Frederick Douglass, the abolitionist and social reformer who defied all odds by rising to the rank of statesman as a black man and former slave in 19th century USA, put the necessity of personal integrity as follows. I prefer to be true to myself, even at the hazard of incurring the ridicule of others, rather than to be false or to incur my own abhorrence. How then should we practice these pillars? Should one not already have proper self-esteem in order to bring these pillars into practice? Branden states that behaviors that generate good self-esteem are also expressions of good self-esteem. Raising self-esteem is a practice, much like physical exercise, that might be hard at first but gradually gets easier to practice, and we'll start to see results. Being conscious of these pillars and self-aware of where we stand on these is key. If I habitually operate at a high level of consciousness, unclarity and fog in my awareness will make me uncomfortable. I will usually experience a drive to dispel the darkness. If I have made self-responsibility second nature, passivity and dependency will be onerous to me. I will experience internal pressure to reassert the control over my existence, possible only with autonomy. If I have been consistent in my integrity, I will experience dishonesty on my part as disturbing and will feel a thrust to resolve the dissonance and restore the inner sense of moral cleanliness. All pillars then are operations of consciousness. All involve choices that we have the power to act on at any point in time.